everybody to The Creative Moment, the first 2024 episode. You guys will be seeing this on the 2nd of January, so fresh into the new year. I'm Dante Bullhauer, Jamie Bullhauer. We're both creatives. We have a podcast about creativity, The Creative Moment, hence the title. And we're jumping right into 2024 with some advice for you peoples. That was pretty good.
Yeah. We're going to set your New Year's resolutions for you. Help you out. Even though nobody's setting their real resolutions till now anyway.
Yeah. And studies show that a lot, more than half of resolutions axed before, I think, February. So we're here to set you some that are realistic, challenging, and maybe fun. I don't know what yours are.
No,
maybe fun. Fun-ish.
Yep.
Creativity is fun. So anyway, let's jump right into it. Are we doing
just whatever.
Or just kind of
okay. I mean, obviously the first resolution is to watch this podcast.
Watch The Creative Moment.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, sorry, we're going to block you on all social medias. Going into 2024 with no fakers. No fake love here.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Okay, so as I was saying about creative resolutions, and we've talked about stuff, they're gonna all be connected to things we said, but I think you should set a resolution to learn your craft. Okay, wherever you're at, it doesn't matter if you're a pro, novice, whatever, you can always learn. And so in that sense, that's up to you. You can read a book, obviously, on my side, but watch videos, listen to other podcasts and stuff, and just actually make this the year that each month you learn something, something new in regards to your craft.
Yeah. Like we've talked about this, learning, when you stop wanting to learn, you're basically going to just be stagnant or go backwards in your industry. So learning is your way of kind of continuing to fuel that flame of passion that you have towards that creative endeavor. So
yeah. And in the learning part, because we talked about the bad stuff in another podcast, don't assume that maybe what you try out has to be published or has to be, understand that part of the learning process is practicing, doing some things. So don't set the goal of I'm now going to paint in this style and sell that or something. Just learn your craft and help make your toolbox more intense with the things that you can do.
Yeah. And a lot of times you figure out if you're someone that's kind of searching for your style or your kind of niche, editing or writing or whatever. A lot of times just learning new things can help you say, yeah, I didn't like that, or yeah, I really like that. I want to include that more into what I do every day in the creative world. So yeah, learning is a great one. It's great for any year, but especially now since we have this podcast. So my first one, and some of these kind of fall in line with kind of my resolutions or things that I want to do this year. Take more time to enjoy your work. And what I mean by that is not the everyday kind of working through it. You should enjoy that too. But a lot of times what I will do, for example, when I go on trips or when I get done with a state event, whatever, I'll post my best stuff and then essentially never look at it again. I mean, or at least very, very intermittently, very scarcely.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. So we should take more time to sit down when we're done with a poem, when we're done with painting a photo, when we get back from a trip, and just enjoy what you created. Because a lot of times, especially with how society runs now, it's, okay, post this, cool, get the next thing. Just keep pumping out stuff. And it's we've talked about the short attention spans, all that stuff that plays into it. Very rarely this year did I stop and say, I just want to enjoy this photo, the moment it brings me back to the way I edited it, the way I was feeling when I took the photo. Very little did I do that this year. And I feel like a lot of people do that because you're always being pressured to push out the next piece of content. Once this thing is out, okay, cool, just move on to the next thing.
Yep.
And so I think it's really important to just kind of step back and reflect on your work and just kind of enjoy the process that it took you to get there, the moment that it brings you to, the emotion it evokes, more than what we typically do.
Yeah. The two things. One, it reminds me, I do not remember which podcast, but you had talked about printing out stuff more. So that you actually physically have it. Yes, we have it digitally saved and some stuff like that.
But that doesn't mean it's saved
Yeah,
forever.
that's true.
You can still lose it.
So having a hard copy of printing some stuff out more, and giving it. Peter McKinnon does that at times, but also just reminded me this last semester. One of the questions to start class was for the students to use their phone and go to the 7th photo. And it's such a good question because so many times they've never looked at that photo for a long time because it's at the bottom of the scroll, and that's why or at 11th or whatever, and it's like, oh, do you remember this? And they show for it, and it just, because they take a picture, they look at it, and then they move on. Even if they're not sharing it socially, it's just stuck on their camera roll, and they forget. And I always love that day because the energy is really positive, and people are, the stories, and they talk about it, and that's enjoying what you have. I kind of do that with my blog. Like, so I'll pick a day and I'll just go back and find on that day and I'll repost it. Because I think I write some pretty good posts that are they hold true a lot of the times, even for today. So I try to share and touch base with my foundation in that way.
Yeah, and it's funny because we so often think like, oh, that photo's probably not important or whatever. But in that moment, when you felt strongly enough about the emotion you were feeling or the sight you were seeing to pull your phone out, take that photo because you wanted to remember that memory.
And then you just forget it.
Yeah, life goes on, all that whole big thing. But just go back and appreciate those moments, especially in something that you work hard on, like a creative a piece of writing, a photo, that sort of thing.
Yeah. The second resolution that I had in mind for you is to try something out of your comfort zone. Now, it can be within your creative endeavor. If you're a writer, try writing a horror short story or something. But to really push the limit, try something else creative. Okay, like draw or paint or take photos. I do that too, but I'm not as good. But mine are. They got their own vibe. I think you could.
He has a style.
I have a style. One, because all I've got is an iPhone 12, and I just have to. You don't know how many times I'm like, I wish Dante was here and had a real camera. This shot would look so much better. But adventure into the other fields of creativity because that sparks your creative spirit and it can inspire your wheelhouse, what like to do. So by taking a photo, of a sunset or something, I know a cliche, but then all of a sudden a poem comes from it or something along the line. So stepping out of your comfort zone. It energizes you. I think it energizes you, even if it's frustrating, it's something new. But it helps you and can inspire, what your talent is.
Yeah. Excuse me. It is so funny whenever I try something new, no matter how time-consuming it is or how kind of stressful it was to just learn how to technically do it, how often I'll be like, that's a great place to implement that I just learned. I now know how, like, this person, I watched their video, I now know how to do that because I learned this technique and all that stuff. So yeah, getting out of your comfort zone and learning some things like I just did. I have a post ready for my end of the year video, which I haven't started. It's the last day of the year, but irrelevant. Been busy. Yeah, sure. But, anyways, I have a post ready for my end of the year video, which I haven't started. It's the last day of the year, but yeah, irrelevant. Been busy. Yeah, sure. But, anyways, I have a post ready for my end of the year video, which I haven't started. It's the last day of the year, but been busy. Yeah, sure. there was a lot of that I had never kind of done before to a certain light. I had done things similar, but never really like dove into like, okay, I want to make this look like perfectly right. And I was like, actually, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, I know.
Just takes a little tweak here, and that like I was happy that I did it. It took a little longer than I thought it would, which is partially why I haven't started the video, but. I was glad that I did it because now I know, okay, in the future when I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that, but I don't have the time to put that in. Now it's in my toolbox, tool belt, as you would say. So, yeah, okay. My number 2, this again goes into kind of my own, I have a lot of things I need to improve, right? Is reflect on... I'm going to try and do it monthly, but reflect after at least every big milestone or turning point or like big decision, at least for the year. So my whole kind of creative career is just kind of flown by for me. It's been a fast moving train that I stop and reflect sometimes, but definitely not enough. And last year was for various reasons. The last 6 months of the year were just like a never-ending time continuum and also just a blur. And so if it's like maybe the 30th of every month or every 2 weeks or after every big event that happens, sit down and just write what happened, how you felt about it, and then what you're going to do in the future in regards to what happened in that month, couple weeks, whatever. I feel like that would help me get a much better perspective and grip on the things that are happening. Like we've talked about my whole hard drive thing. Not once did I just stop and reflect. I just sat there and I was like, this just sucks.
Because the reflection allows you to see what your comfort zone is and to where we can, just in general life, get lost. Like, okay, this is my routine. This is, how to, and it's like, okay, by reflecting, you go, this is maybe what I could have done or been prepared for, or can actually see the bigger picture, because we assume so much about all kinds of things. We assume our technology will never fail us. We assume Google will never be hacked, for let's say. That's not true. That's not true. There could be or Google has taken away their phone. Technology is changed, life is changed, and I think that is I think that's a big step.
Yeah,
for
and
you.
then so even with that, like just reflecting on, like in those moments, if I were to just look and I'm like, in a year, this will still be a little blemish and kind of an embarrassing like blunder, but in a year this will not be holding you down like it is now. And it took me so long to get out of that hole and to be like, that does not define your entire career. Your entire career hasn't even really started.
Yeah.
And so just
big
putting
picture.
those and make an interval like now. Decide it's going to be 2 weeks. It's going to be a month. Because if you're just like, I'll just whenever I feel like it, you'll never do it.
Yeah.
So my goal is to monthly just kind of reflect. I made this much. I worked on these projects. This is how I felt about them. Here's what I'm going to do moving forward in February in regards to that stuff. So make a kind of reflection calendar, if you will, and hold yourself to it. And it will help you just be able to kind of know which path you want to move in creatively.
And ironically, it connects to my last resolution for you. And to a degree, I personally, after this year being very specific with it, is doing a challenge. Do at least one kind of challenge for the year. All year, I did something each month. And it was a part of connected to my word for last year. We're going to talk about that as our last little thing. But one, doing the challenge built discipline. build discipline. And to be a creative in this world, in the sense that there's so much entertainment, so many distractions, so many easy paths, you might say, that being disciplined and being able to complete challenges or complete things that we personally feel are important. And like Dante said, and in fact, by 6 months, I believe it's 75% of resolutions, people have stopped doing them. And in fact, then the figure is pretty high just after like 2 weeks, actually. Yeah. And so it just shows that, but we have habits. That's the other part, is that we have these other habits that we just blindly follow, or even in our creative, like, well, I'll always write this way, or I will always center my...
I've gotten better.
No, I know, but I was just saying, you know what I'm saying? Like, even in our creative lives, we have these routines, and to get out of them by doing a challenge, whatever it might be. I really enjoyed doing the drawing challenge for a month with your sisters. I love that. It's fun. We all we get together. So making a challenge, if you're a photographer, I think all the photo companies actually have a monthly challenge. You can just look that up. There's drawing challenges, writing challenges. You could just make your own challenge. I challenge myself to write a blog post every day for a month because I'm not I'm not very good at really writing a blog post on the schedule. But I still write pretty well. But still, it focused me. I did that, and it helps build discipline. Do something in your creative world or outside of it. I'm actually an all right artist, but I do not draw on a regular basis. So doing the drawing challenge really ignites another part of my spirit, and it's fun, and it brings back a skill set that I have but I don't use very often. So my third one is find a challenge sometime during this year, and if it's connected to a reflective journal aspect or something like that works too. But I really think just doing something in your creative wheelhouse as a challenge will strengthen your skills. You'll learn, so that's my third one. Which
discipline is always the most important thing that I talk about in like my creative talks. Is if you don't have discipline in anything, you're not going to be where you want to be at the end of the road.
Yeah.
And if you just can't hold yourself down to, here's my long-term goal, I have to do these things if I want to get there. If you don't hold yourself to that, every day or hour or minute that you break that discipline, that goal becomes farther and farther away. And so that's where I kind of attribute, I thought in 3 to 5 years, I was going to be able to own my own business and break the 9 to 5, that whole thing. I worked my butt off for a year till and part of it was just kind of things like started piling on where I'm like, I really need to get here. So it just motivated me to work harder and harder and harder to get there. That I got there in I think it was like a year.
A year. Yeah.
And so that was a huge thing, is just having that discipline to wake up. I am tired. I am hungry. Do the work. Go do things that you're not required to do. Work more than you're required to work, and it expedited that long-term goal process. So discipline is huge, and a challenge is a great way to help kind of instill that in your routine. Okay, my third one is be absolutely and positively 100% you in your creative world this year. We are in a world where it's more negative than it's ever been, but it's also, if you find kind of your crowd, more positive than it's ever been. You can find, no matter what you do, there are people that act like NPCs and make $6,000 an hour by people sending them emojis that they have to pay for. Thank you for the rose. You can find whatever creative world you want to find yourself in. You can find a crowd that will support you and help you get to where you want to get to in that world. And yes, that does come with a lot of potential negativity, putting yourself out there. Maybe it's not something that a whole lot of people are interested in, but getting lenses on that just kind of block that out and say, you know what? Everybody hates on everything. Literally, if you go to any singular Twitter post, Instagram post, whatever, that has more than like 1,000 likes or something, I guarantee out of the first 5 comments, at least 3 of them will be negative. That doesn't matter. Those aren't the people that you want as a part of your circle anyway. And so by branching out and just, you know what, I'm just gonna be me. I'm not gonna care about what the haters think, but I'm going to find my audience, find where they support me, find where my interests match their support, and just build and build and build. You will find success to some degree. And so and the only way you'll do that is by being like truly, truly genuine. People see through fake even through computer screens.
They do, but they still follow it or still like it.
Fair.
Like, I'm just like, honestly, that's maybe the sadder.
But that is not a fulfilling.
No, it's not fulfilling. Maybe that's a whole different podcast too.
Maybe catch us in a couple weeks.
Because I was just, like, there are people who don't like Stevie. I had a coworker who just like every time I talk, like, oh, I just hate him. He's such a I'm like,
there's just so much negativity, and if you really were to dig on those people and be like, why? What is your reasoning? Most of the time they don't have one. They're just like, oh, I just don't like it. I just don't like it.
A little bit.
I didn't like broccoli for the longest time. I still don't. But I never had a reason for it because I never tried it, right? I was just like, I just don't like it. So I am a hater too, to an extent. Mostly with vegetables. But that's my tip number 3. Just go out there and be truly you, and you will find, whether it's one person or 100,000 people, you will find people that support what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Yep. So our last one is maybe resolutions isn't your thing, and it's just funny that yours again connects to the idea. Is maybe do the one word thing for the year. It's something as a family we have now done. This will be our 10th year doing this. And the one word aspect I was gonna look that up, who started it anyway, is the idea that you have a focus for the year and you fall back on that word. And some, it's tough choosing the word. Some years are better than others. Like, I remember when my word was stories. Oh my gosh, that was such a great year. Because it was like anytime something came up, I was like, would this be a cool story? And so I ended up like saying yes to more things that we did on small scales to big scales. Other words have been a little bit more emotional or a little bit more internal. Like this year, my word is real.
It's going to be IRL, and we shut that.
Yeah. I talked about that in my blog post. The irony of that.
See, I'm a hater when I need to be. When it's crucial.
And so in that sense, if you don't like setting resolutions and do it, because a word is kind of like a theme, it gives you an idea to kind of center your decisions on, and the one, and some of the other words were awesome too when I did live, but it's like, I just remember that year of stories. Because in a sense, it just let me be more okay with saying yes, because this could be a cool story or a cool memory. And so if you don't like resolutions, think about choosing one word for the year. Do something so that you see that word as a reminder for the year, and make all your decisions and focus and stuff on that to fulfill that. And I think you'll end up having an overall, because life has its ups and downs, no matter what, that 2024 would be an awesome year for your creativity and, for your everyday life.
Yeah. For example, like this past year, I thought I failed mightily on my word And again, there was
It was a
a
tough
lot
year.
of external factors that played into that. My word last year was thoughtful, and just the last kind of 6 months of the year, it was hard to think about anything other than what was going on in life for life and business and a whole bunch of stuff. So there are years where it clicks more and it doesn't, but usually at the end of the year you'll find, okay, it changed some part of my year to an extent, whether it was like minor or major. Some part of my year was impacted based on this word, and based on, like you said, putting it somewhere where you see it every day. The past 3 years of my words are sitting right there next to my whiteboard that I write corny stuff on. So I see it almost every day when I'm making coffee, making breakfast, doing the dishes, all that. And whether it's conscious or subconscious, just has a little click sometimes. And I'm like, okay, let's go do this based on, this word. So that's a great one in lieu of resolutions. Just find a word that you want your year to kind of encompass and just kind of run with it.
There you go. 2024 has started.
Yeah.
By the time you watch this.
Yeah. This was recorded on New Year's Eve. Happy New Year.
With a live audience again.
With a
But you didn't hear.
girl live audience. Only one bark. That was... She's going to hear about that one on the show. Anyway, happy to go into this new year with you guys. Happy New Year. Hope you have a good time with friends and family as the holidays kind of wrap up, sadly. Got to go back to work or whatever. Got to start my end of the year video. But we love having you guys. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, everywhere you can find us. We're on Twitter and Instagram with our personal accounts that we post a lot of our work on as well. So make sure to give those a follow. And we will see you guys in a couple weeks.